Thank you. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to do a short presentation about the Event Sustainability Yearbook that we are launching. You can exclusively download this is not the official release yet, but if you want to have the document, you can download it with this QR code. So I'm gonna do a brief presentation on the results of our yearbook. It's a document that summarizes the main advances and milestones from Event Sustainability last year and some of the trends and predictions that we have for this year and the upcoming months. And then we're gonna jump into the panel. So this is gonna be like a brief context. Okay, is this working? Yeah. So, yeah, we are all a bit tired, so I'm gonna stand up so we feel a bit more energized. So, is this working? Yep. Okay, so this is the structure of the document. If you do speak Spanish, you can already download the Spanish version, which is a bit longer, has more specific content for things that are going on in Latin America specifically. But we have the main milestones from last year, a map of international actors that we have to update to add fairly. Some international resources, reports, studies that were released last year, and some of our predictions. So I'm gonna go very fast through this just to give you a grasp of what's going on, because you can check the document. The idea is that we don't make this panel boring about all the technical stuff, because there are so many resources. Like if you wanna get into event sustainability, there's like online courses, training, a lot of free resources that you can check. So this can be your guide to enter this field. So yeah, we have a summary of some of the main milestones from last year, like the masterclass that LiveGreen released, some of the guides that were released, online tools, and some of the reports that we reviewed. Well, yeah. And as you're gonna see through the whole document, like it's very European heavy. Like Europe is the region that is making the most progress in this area, and it's pretty obvious when you check the map. So we have a list of the main organizations that are doing research, releasing resources with all of their links and territories of origin. Maybe this is not like 100% accurate, but it's a very general overview of the organizations that you can check in every territory. And then we have a review of different reports that have been released that are very inspiring and have different insights or resources or referential values that are very useful if you want to get into the field, train yourself, and have everything you need to get into event sustainability. This is a field where there are very specific needs in different event verticals. Like festivals have very specific needs. If you go to like sports events or business conferences, etc. So there are different organizations that focus on these verticals. And well, I didn't present myself. So I'm the founder of Measurevent, and we work with all the verticals, but we are most specialized in festivals. So that is why we are doing this review with different resources, because it's an exercise for us to stay up to date with the latest advances and update our methodology for measuring the impact of events. But yeah, I mean, if I start going through the main learnings from each of these documents, it's going to take too long. So you can have an idea of the type of reports that are being released. Some are focusing on festivals, as I said. Some have a lot of insights on the environmental side and carbon footprint, while there are some other documents that focus on the economic impact of the event industry, the festival industry, social, cultural impacts, inclusion, access, and some very practical guides about how to tackle some of the challenges that promoters face. Spain is also one of the territories that has done a great job. The FMA, the Association of Music Festivals, they've released many reports with different consultancy firms in sustainability, how to move forward into a circular model for festivals. And these are very interesting resources. So yeah, if you don't speak Spanish, at least you can get an idea of the main learnings in this document. Also, social innovation, how festivals can collaborate with different causes, involve local communities. This one's more focused on brands. What's the relation between brands and festivals? What are the new opportunities? What do people value in a festival, and how brands can connect in a more authentic way with audiences that can also tackle some sustainability challenges. And all the methodologies that are used for that. So you can, this is like a framework to understand the cultural impact of an event based on the perception of the audience. And well, this is more specific to a group of festivals, but again, I think it's a great framework for other associations of festivals in other territories that need to measure and forecast their impact to be prepared for the upcoming challenges. A lot of festivals have been cancelled for financial risks and other reasons, and these kind of resources are key to talk with the public sector, see what kind of support you can get, show how important this sector is also for the local economy, and having more chances for sustainability. You know, not only environmental but economical sustainability. And then some other specific resources. Again, the Festival Association of Spain to make safe festivals. This is a protocol that any promoter can implement. And some other specific methodologies on social and cultural impacts. So it's a very complete review. If you're in Europe, this is, of course, a must and a roadmap that you should try to follow. And, of course, AGF, cherry of the cake. So I'm not going to talk about this because we have Claire here. And the guides that net zero carbon events have been releasing in different areas and needs of managing energy, waste, logistics, etc. So you can check those methodologies. If I missed anything or said something that is not correct, our panelists can correct me. And you can also check some of our predictions that have to do with how these new practices will be implemented, how the industry is getting more professional in terms of sustainability thanks to all these resources for coaching, how the Green Festival roadmap will be tracked, and some other new policies that are being implemented. So we can talk about that in our panel. The purple points is also something that is kind of becoming standard in some festivals that we can discuss. I don't know if you use the same term or same color for this, but it's like, you know, the points where you can reach out if there's been a I don't know the technical term, the sexual violence and hate crimes. Yeah, that's the concept. Yeah, those are the main trends that we've seen. And now we can get to our panel. Thank you. We can go back to the other, to the normal screen. And we can welcome Claire and Maxime. Claire from NGF.
We literally just arrived, like by the skin of our teeth, on the same train. It was delayed 90 minutes. But don't let that put you off train travel. It's the best way still.
Did you have a second for a glass of water or coffee or something?
No, we haven't
nothing
even
yet.
had a glass of water. We're going to be like
Still
this.
rushing. You're still feeling the movement of the train on the side.
We're ready. We're so ready.
So we had a preparation call for this panel, and one of the things that we discussed is, well, all of these technical resources and reports and frameworks and guidelines and best practices that have been released. But we want to go a bit beyond that. Like, what's the vision of the future in event sustainability? Since we are in a music tech conference, we want to discuss the challenges that tech can address to achieve this sustainable transition for the sector, but also what is beyond the carbon-centric approach. Like, we're talking a lot about carbon footprint, but what's beyond that? Like, how do we engage with communities? How will festivals interact with the ecosystem in, I don't know, 50 years from here? But maybe we should start in the present moment. Like, what are, first of all, a quick presentation, and then we'll jump into the questions. But
cool.
Please.
Cool. So I'm Claire O'Neill. Good to meet you. And I'm from A Greener Future. It started 18 years ago. After doing a thesis about sustainability in festivals. And it's so good to see all of this now here, because back then, 18 years ago, there was nothing like this, and now there's so much out there. But what there is still a gap in is some of the execution of making it all work, and it's a bit of a leaky system as far as making green events, but we can go into that. So what we do, in a nutshell, we've been certifying festivals, arenas, tours, different types of events now since 2007. It's become much more professional, shall we say, over the years. It began by a small checklist and now is a very comprehensive audit system. And that's internationally, although mostly in Europe. And alongside that, we developed a training program, which can be done anywhere in the world, online with Falmouth University, which is about assessing festivals or arenas and making them more sustainable, becoming a sustainability manager yourself. And then we do consultancy as well. So we work directly with the events in some places, such as at the moment we're working with Massive Attack on the Downs in Bristol for their super low carbon event they're going to produce. We're working with the European Cycling Championships in Belgium. We did the Queen's Funeral, which was an interesting one. BST Hyde Park, so we work with the O2 Arena, Wembley Arena. So quite big organisations, but also still a lot of the grassroots as well. Should I go into a couple of headline problems as well as an intro?
Maybe we'll go through Maxime's presentation too.
So hi, I'm Maxime Faget. I work for Fairly, which is developing softwares for the music industry, and with the aim of helping festivals and venues monitoring and reducing their impact. We have a we have another software that is already released, which is called Fairly Event. It's basically like a bar management system or like a ticketing management system that provides transparency to your audience as of where the money is going when it's being spent on a ticket or on a beer or on a pizza or whatever is going there. So the idea is to inform the audience on how the economy of an event or venue is working, to engage them into that and to communicate on these issues. And we've developed, so this first one, Fairly Event, years ago. And about 2-3 years ago, we decided to operate sort of a switch, or like to create a new software that would be more strictly dedicated to the question of sustainability and impact analysis. And so we created Fairly Score, which is a calculator for environmental impact, socio-economical impact, and carbon footprint. So it's all integrated in there. The idea is that it's first used on a B2C, B2B level, so by professionals, venues or festivals. They get in all their data, and 3 types of score are coming out. So their carbon footprint related to reference values from other festivals that are more or less the same dimension, or venues and so on. So you can compare yourself and not only have a brutal, let's say, just value. And it's all sectioned and classified regarding like following the carbon footprint examination protocol. And you also have one part which is more about resources, so water, food management, is it labelized or not, vegetarian, and so on. You also like pollution and waste management and questions like that. And eventually you have one part which we insist on, and I think we're going to talk a bit more about it later on. We have a socio-economical aspect. So we analyze also data such as the gender pay gap, for instance, within a structure, which kind of partners you're having for your restoration, for your merch, I don't know, how you are relating basically to the socio-economical ecosystem that surrounds your event. And for all of this, so we're gathering and crossing lots of different referentials. It's mainly French basis for now. So like we're crossing the referentials of ministries, NGOs that have been working on that for 15, 20 years sometimes. So we probably also like benefited indirectly from the work from AGF from the last year into doing that. So this is enough for a description, I guess, of what we're doing.
Thank you. Thanks, Maxime. It's a great tool. We had a demo in our call, and you can take my word, coming from a competitor, basically. We tackle a different territory, and we have like slightly different approaches. This is a field where we need much more people doing this, and I hope eventually we get to a point where we start integrating each other, or having mergers and acquisitions, or being a relevant subsector of music tech. I can see this coming. But Claire, you spend a lot of time in festivals, in venues, in funerals, as we can.
That will probably be more and more as I'm getting older.
So you're experiencing how events are implementing new practices, and what are still the main gaps. So I can imagine sometimes you're like looking at how they are doing things, and it's like, how can we still be doing this way when we have all this tech available? Like, so what are the main challenges that you see in a sustainable transition for events and festivals, where maybe technology can develop some of those solutions?
Like broadly, culture and money are always the biggest obstacle to anything changing. So we've had, for one, when we try to change energy systems, if you try and go into an event and say, okay, we're going to run the whole main stage this time by a different technology to what we have for the last 50 years, people are like, on my stage for my show or at my event, and like, who's going to take the flak if it doesn't work? And so there's resistance in that respect to change. Which is where someone just has to bite the bullet eventually and take the risk. But then equally, there's the cost and the perception that it's going to be more expensive to do things differently. And that's where being able to couple the environmental or social positive activities with the economic outcomes is really important. And I think that's what's going to make a big change. That's what's helped us, to use energy as an example again, staying on the same thread, to move away from diesel generators, for example, because we could show that the cost of fuel plus the generators plus the distro was going to be more expensive in the end than the battery technologies or long-term investing into grid connections. So having that kind of telemetry and data was super helpful in that transition, and it's still only just happening now. Like that massive attack show I mentioned will be the first main stage of that scale to use a battery, so hopefully it's going to stay on, but I think it will do. And then similarly with things like we've had initiatives such as going vegan with all of the traders, and then there's concern that, oh, if we do this, we're not going to sell as much food. We're not going to, what's the difference between how much how much environmental benefit it is from a biodiversity perspective, from a CO2 perspective, versus the bottom line, which a lot of events, that's the bottom line still. And so being able to show that actually it isn't going to have an adverse effect on your income for a lot of the larger events and larger organizations that we're working with, that is what really moves the dial. I think something that you've both been working on, and probably a lot of people at this event working on as well, that massively helps is that kind of integration between different systems. So we at the moment collect a lot of data from different sources, such as the payment system on the bars, for example, or on food. And then we separately have an accreditation system, and then there might be an audience survey. There's lots of different data points, telemetry that's on the technical equipment from the production teams, or on the energy equipment, and that all has to be collected separately at the moment. Another thing that we're doing is going to arena, and then you have to ask maybe 300 different bands what their touring equipment is, what they are, how many trucks they're bringing, etc. They have to ask maybe 16 different venues for their information every time they go through. So what we're trying to do now is find that software development partner or collaboration where we can stop needing to ask all of those separately and just to link it all in together. So if you go into the system, then you can just click on VO2 Arena if that's one of the venues on your tour, and then you get all of their data coming through, which is it's a simple thing for the kind of people here. It's not something that I know how to build, but it will take a lot of the legwork out basically, and then save money again on consultancy and extra admin time.
Yeah, I think we'll come back later to the culture side. How do you motivate people to behave in a sustainable way? There are some funny hacks that I've read in some of these guides, like don't say it's a vegan burger, just use another name, make it sound exciting, interesting.
The only reason that you put the word vegan on something is to inform a vegan that it's not got meat in it. So if everything's vegan, there's no need to put the word vegan on there.
Yeah, I mean, by now it's enough with putting a small V on the side or
PB, no one knows.
But with the more technical challenge that you mentioned, data is one of the main struggles. So Maxime, I guess you've worked on solving these things, but maybe you've also observed other challenges. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, when you try to convince a festival or a venue to make a change or transition towards a more sustainable or more responsible practices, usually you're confronted with the lack of money to spend on it, because it's another line of budget that they don't originally have, or the lack of time, or just team members but have time to dedicate to that. Because some teams, some festivals have one person dedicated to that, and it's growing in numbers, but it's still few festivals, even in Europe. So you have to fit in a way that is not heavy on them. You don't have to add too much work on top of what they already have. It's a burnt out ecosystem and industry. So people are already over the top all the time. So if you just say you just have to add 2-3 hours more work every week on what you're already doing, usually you get a no, unless people are very motivated, and some people already do it, although it's costing them a lot effort-wise. So what we try to do with Felix is that we try to find ways to reduce the time you spend on it, and some ways, some methods for that have been mentioned already. So you're connecting it to the different production tools that you're having, your ticketing system, your food management system or like your payment system, for instance. And the idea is, but then, or like even your accounting system in some way, the idea is that you have a double gain on that. You don't spend too much time on it because the data is coming directly from your production software and you're typing it only once there. And the second one is that the info is more credible since it's your production software. And if you would want to change your score or your result on the sustainability aspect, you would have to change it directly into your ticketing system, your accounting system, and so on. So this is a double win, like when we can implement such a thing. Another one is that we need to get the data from where it is located at. So it's one of the main difficulties is that sustainability or like impact data is very heterogeneous. You have type of foods and menus, you have kilometers from people coming, you have type of energy, you have type of communication, is it printed or online, etc. You have 1,000 of different criteria, or maybe not 1,000, but not far. And they all have different metrics, and they are spoken in different languages by different people. It's your curator, it's your technical director, and so on. So what we try to do to solve this sort of equation, which is how to get all this data in one format at the same place, is to try to make the tool as collaborative as possible. So basically you are sharing microforms with people that are in possession of the information. For instance, your curator or directly the artists that are coming, or the person who is managing your building, for instance, when it comes to the volume of water that is being consumed in this place. So you don't put all the responsibility on the shoulders of one person it might be the job or maybe not. So maybe it's not even her or his job to conduct CSR strategies. And so this is one of main thing. And yeah, like what we try to do is also we will have different types of profiles on FairlyScore. So there is one for festivals, one for venues, one for tourings. And the idea is, but the old dialogues. So in the future, you have pre-written somehow your information when you're an artist on tour, when you are a venue that is welcoming artists and so on. So you can, in few clicks, directly share your impact on that venue, on that precise date, where you came from, how much energy you're using, and so on. So this is a technological answer to the problem of resources, but one of the main issues remains what Claire said before, which is like professional or like habits, basically. Like I've been working with this type of energy all the time. I've been proposing this type of food for so long. I don't want to change it because it costs in efforts to do it. It's taking a risk also sometimes. And this is really hard to change, basically. And one of the biggest challenge is not make it look like a burden or threat or just a risk that you're putting on top of your already quite burdened, how to say, life or professional life.
And well, these kind of things are very different from territory to territory, but I'd like to know what do you think is like the current stage of the sustainable transition, or how professional are these events when it comes to sustainability? Like if I talk about Latin America and especially Chile, like promoters don't have like a sustainability manager, and I have to do all the work for them and get the data for them. Data is not standardized. There are no many tools that I can integrate with. So in the end, it was like, okay, let's just do online surveys and integrate those surveys, and based on that, get the indicators. But I guess now we are seeing more festivals and events that have their own sustainability managers, or that maybe they have certified their staff with some of these training tools that have been released. So like seeing it in the adoption tech cycle, like are we in a early majority stage, or are there people that are like very, very professional and advanced on this and have like a full team?
Yeah, I'd say it's a mixture, because even when we started, like I said, 18 years ago was when I did my thesis on it, and then there was already things like the Big Green Gathering, Green Futures at Glastonbury, that just lived and breathed it. They weren't doing data analysis. They were just already 100% renewable energy, vegan food, composting, recycling, and they didn't need a sustainability manager because they're just sustainable. However, then the first sustainability manager that came online was, I think, 2008, and that was actually Live Nation got a sustainability manager called Andrew Hayworth, and they implemented a reusable cup system at Download Festival. And then quick off the back of that, Festival Republic, who are now owned by Live Nation, they got their first sustainability manager, I think in 2009 or 2010. That was in the UK. And now now almost every festival has a sustainability manager as standard in the UK and in most European countries that we've found. Bearing in mind, we go in and assess festivals on their sustainability. So if they're asking for someone to come and assess them, they've probably got a sustainability manager in place. The arenas, on the other hand, we started assessing them maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And one of the main recommendations that have come in from us to them is to get a sustainability manager, because there was only one out of maybe 11 that we'd assessed in the first year that had a sustainability manager. So it is something that's needed, that's necessary in most places, and there is a vast, I actually find it a bit, it's a bit dull. But there is a vast sustainability professionals network who are like obsessed with noodling into the data and making sure that everything is super watertight, which is good, but it can just be a bit dry sometimes. But there's a lot of people out there now. It's very professional. There's loads of training. There's all sorts of courses. And one other thing I'd say is when we began, there was no legal requirement. There was no Green Deal. There were no sustainable development goals. There was no CSRD. Obviously, that's very new. So it's almost like the legal framework is now catching up with the ideology. And so it has to be professional. There's no choice.
So there's a big challenge in training, coaching, and like changing the culture of people. I don't know, Maxime, if you're tackling this need to like teach your users how to use the platform, because maybe they need to level up or do some sort of baseline, I don't know.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we will, and I have to precise, but Felix Core is right now in its beta phase, so it's being tested by about 20 to 30 structures at the moment, and it will be released officially in October, so later on. So I don't have yet all the data that I can observe, also in terms of feedback. But we know that accompanying the persons that are going to be using our software is going to be important. We will do it at least a little bit just as customer support, of course, but we will also redirect people who are using it and want deeper accompaniment towards professionals. And we know many as well. Like I think, yeah, like there is a professionalization on this topic in general, and so it's growing as a profession itself, I find. And so, like, it might not be our role directly. We might do it, and we will anyway put some human resource in there, because we need to address the question of certification as well. And in some cases, I know that we will probably need some assessors as well, but are able to verify some particularly sensitive data, or I don't know. But I think this is not going to be our job. I think we are going to be the software that is going to be in between professionals of the accompaniment and sustainability professionals and festivals and venues. So this is more where I would put Felix Core, I guess.
Okay, fairly enough. So, but your model is B2B, but you showed us something on the demo. I don't know if you want to make this kind of public here, but that is on the B2C side, like showing some of the indicators, or like what's the strategy behind that? Like why showing the scores to the audience? How can you also change the culture of the audience, of the final customer?
Yeah, this is a very important thing actually of Felix Core, but it's going to have several interfaces for the audience, basically. So if I'm a festival and I decide to calculate my score, my impact score, so the CO2, environmental and socio-economical, I can then publish these results on different channels. I can publish it directly on my website, in the various dynamical visualizations, or I can publish it directly on ticketing platforms and add it next, basically, to the name of my event, its location, its aesthetic, and so on. So it will be like, it looks like Nutri-Score in France. So like you have, I don't know how it's called elsewhere, but like I guess you get the point. So like basically this A, B, C, D, E type of scoring. And on each one of these branches, so socio-economical, environmental, and CO2. And the idea behind that is that we want to engage the audience. We want them to be active into this transition, and we think transparency is a great lever for action also, and also for fiability and credibility in the type of information and calculations you're making, because you're more usually you're more precise when you know someone is going to look up your shoulder and verify your results, or being able to access it. So we don't force that, and we never will. Like, no festival using our software will be forced to publish the score, but we encourage that. And we encourage the publication also of progresses, the implication of audience in different things also, because we have a system in which, like, audiences can directly fill in how they're going to the event and from where and so on. So this is all integrated in the software, and there is an interface for them. So we want them to participate also, to integrate the idea that they have an impact, that culture has an impact, that it's not different from any other industry on this aspect, and we need to identify what is making this impact. So, so yeah, there is a whole B2C or B2B2C aspect also. Yeah.
Claire, how do you think we can change the mindset of the audience? We know we're in an age that this is a sector actually that has been very proactive in a sustainable transition. Like, it's not being pushed by government or laws or policies. It's like very proactive and authentic. And also audiences, like, they want to consume more sustainable products, and not only on the environmental side of things. Like, if you're being sponsored by a bank that, I don't know, is backing war or something like this, people can completely cancel those events. So what can we do to also change the behavior of the audience in this?
Yeah, it is one of the trickiest things, and but also we kind of get conflicting messages from audiences. I mean, we've been using labels on festivals for a long time, saying whether they're an improver, outstanding, commended, etc. I don't know how much that affects people's choice of the events, although when we survey them, they say, yes, we want to choose greener events. But then when we look at the results of what happens on site, largest sales are for burgers, or everyone's traveled by car, or 1 in 5 people have left their tents behind. It's like, so you want a green event, but how, if you're not going to actually participate in it? But the good thing is it is getting better, and for the point that you just raised about sponsorship is a really important one, and that's going to affect all sectors. And I think that it's actually coming quite late to the music industry, because it's been, other sectors have been under the fire for that for a long time. And it's something that the industry as a whole are kind of coming together on and saying, what are we going to do about this? How do we protect artists if they want to boycott, or if they don't want to boycott? What happens to the festivals and the contracts? Like, what happens if a headliner wants to pull out, or someone lower down the bill? How do you protect them? And then where do you draw the line on if a brand is considered as boycottable or not? Like, who decides that, and where do you draw the line? Is it based upon the investments that an organisation has made? Is it based upon something direct? Is it by association? So this is where, from a technical perspective, really understanding the supply chains of where things are coming from, and like one of the things that your tool leans towards, like where the money flows, is becoming more and more important, because that cancel culture is very prevalent. All that said, places like festivals, sports events, they're some of the best places to reach people and to change hearts and minds, actually. Even I started this company that ended up with, was never a plan, but that was because of inspiration from festivals, from going to festivals where you're open, you're out of your normal daily habits, and potentially you're really exposed to the elements, so you can see what it's like when it's a massive flood, or when it's boiling hot and you have to walk really far to the toilets, or to get water even. It's not that bad at festivals, but it makes you realise, that you're not actually just locked in this box where you can flick a light switch and get energy. So I think it makes people more aware. But also people can get really inspired. Like football, as an example, Forest Green Rovers in the UK, they went 100% vegan 10 years ago. And it got massive backlash from the press. But there's so many of their audiences now, they've got extra fans all around the world, and it's starting to really inspire a cultural shift, because they've led by example. And the very last thing I'll say on that is you need to be able to show that it's better, more fun, easier to do the green option, and that's with the Massive Attack show. We're really aiming to do that, making it super easy, putting on extra trains, free buses, doing this massive, beautiful battery with the main stage, you know, and actually showing this is the better way to do it, and then see how quickly people run around trying to actually make those solutions themselves as well. So there's a few different answers in there, but yeah, lead by example as much as possible and show it's a fun thing to do.
Well, in the end, festivals are like temporary cities.
Yeah.
And that means that it's also a place where you can pilot new policies, for example, new ways of living, new ways of behaving. That's also a big opportunity for the public sector. They are not seeing it, or we are not selling that concept well enough. But yeah, we have this contradiction in the audience, like between what I say that I want, and then I get to the festival and let's get wasted.
I think it's a reflection of all of us as individuals. I wish I got up at 7 a.m. and did yoga every morning. If you asked me, that's what I want to do, but it doesn't happen.
So it's like the reptilian brain hitting. How do we deal with the reptilian brain? Like, we have some fun facts for you. Are there any Taurus here, like zodiac sign Taurus? No?
Oh, yeah, me.
Oh, okay. Okay, this is
Big up
gonna
Taurus.
this is gonna be awkward.
He's pushable from here, so.
There is this study that 40% people have had sex in a festival, and Taurus is the most likely to do it.
Slander. In fact, I think I recognize you.
So there are these kind of unexpected impacts of live music and events, like beyond carbon footprint, or maybe very related with carbon footprint. Like if you're having a baby,
Population footprint.
that footprint is huge. Maybe not attributable to the festival, but do you have any like fun anecdotes or facts?
About that? How rude.
No. Just the unexpected.
I mean,
impacts,
there
maybe
is
other-
one. So we spoke about tent waste earlier, and there was a calculation that was done by Europe, the European Festival Association, who found that something like the top 10 festivals maybe wasted 500,000 tents across just the top 10 festival from people leaving them behind, which came to something like the equivalent of 1 million beers in cost. So you've actually thrown away 1 million beers worth of money, and then 100 tons, which is like something like I think it's 500 elephants worth of weight of tent waste. And this is, people think that it's going to get reused again or be taken for salvage, but most of it just ends up in landfill. And that's really valuable materials and resources. Most of it's made from fossil fuels anyway, and then that's just ending up in landfill. So again, coming back to that, the link between economic and environmental, if you can bring those things together, so rather than saying it's about polar bears and ice caps, it's actually about, you know, your living costs and how affordable festivals or having disposable income or even being able to feed yourself in some cases, the living crisis in the UK.
Since you bring that, how do we go beyond the social, cultural, environmental? Like triple impact is getting kind of old as a concept. Now we are talking about new frameworks, about well-being, like a more complex framework to develop a healthy relationship with the local communities, with the territories, in a long-term sustainable mindset. In Fairly Score, you have nailed like the main impact areas, but are you looking into like what's after this? Like
It's still in beta, give them a chance.
I know you have some thoughts.
Well, I mean, we address the question of social local impacts in various ways. Like, we can't be as qualitative as we should be to really assess what is the social local impact of a festival. We don't count babies that are being born out of a festival first, sadly, but maybe we should. But I mean, it can change. Like, it can be day and night from one festival to the next. You know, like I've been to some festivals I've been working on. It's normally like all along the year, it's like 200 people living there, and then suddenly for 5 days, you have, I don't know, like 100,000 persons that are there for 1, 2, 3 weeks. There is bad and there is good in that, like, because it's necessarily it has also negative impact. It's also sometimes bringing economical dynamics to the whole region, which can also create dependency to it, which is, I mean, that's basically like the same topic as for tourism. Like you can, it's at least very, very, very similar to it, meaning that you can do it well or you can do it poorly, and it's not good by default, or say, or bad by default. And then, I don't know, like, yeah, there is this whole infra impact that you can't quantify at all, like the way people get politicized during a festival or not, or the way they have fun, the way they fall in love, all these things, like this has to stay, and festivals have to keep on existing for that. But to keep on existing, and this is also something I think we sometimes don't stress enough, because we really want to go easy on the persons we are talking to on, like, on this question of lack of resources and so on, and try to make them look at the bright side. There is also an emergency, and it's also about resilience. It's also about having still festivals in the future. And I think I remember a quote from you from years ago I read, which was the fact that in the future there will be only sustainable festivals, or there will be none, or something.
That was actually me quoting an EU minister.
Okay, well.
It's not my choice, but
Okay.
he's got more sway.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I
But
have a quote that has to do with the cultural impact from a article in Music Business Worldwide. It says, fans with tattoos of their favorite band or those able to recite lyrics word for word has more meaning than any data dashboard. But those data could actually end up in a dashboard in a few years from now with all the...
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary. Like, we don't need to quantify everything, but we need to stress out the fact that it's an important topic, and it's, I mean, whether we put technology in it or not, we know that the biggest challenge is people's mind and decision and willingness to act on it. So we can have all the AI in the world and whatever machine learning or even whatever system and software we have. If people don't want to make the change, it won't happen. So we need to convince them also, like, it's a heavy and very important topic. And if we want to keep on dancing in festivals and make tattoos of our favorite bands, we need them to happen 40, 50 years.
I think, again, that's why music and festivals and sports and all of these things that are kind of joyous coming together are so important, because there's not really much of a sense of community in a lot of places now, certainly big cities. You know, everyone's gone out into their separate little homes, and there's not that much chance for incidental speaking to each other. And even when we are in groups, a lot of people are just into their phones, still in their own little square. And so it's a very important thing to be able to come into a space where you're relaxed, you're open, and you can connect and actually vision the future, because we can look at all of the things that are wrong, we can look at all the data, we can look at how much water's being used and how many emissions have been created. But it's actually about that, well, what are we going to do differently? Like, where are we heading to? What's their kind of creative vision? Or what do we want to build as a generation for the next generation?
So what do you envision, like, as a final comment? Like, imagine that we already achieved like full circularity in every festival and event, and they are like net positive and everything. Like, what's beyond that?
So if we manage to get to that point, so everything is already squeaky clean, so all clean energy, the water is clean now, the air is clean now, there's loads of biodiversity, it's all come back, everybody's quite healthy and not too mentally ill because they're looking after themselves and each other. Then I think building a lot of really incredible creative stages, music, visual art, being able to go out and have a wonderful time with your friends and keep on building like incredible spaces and incredible experiences. Maybe more bungee jumping, a bit of skydiving and eco airplanes as well. That would be good. Massive zip lines, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you missed the previous presentations and panels, because there were a lot of talk about health, like how music and tech can improve mental health and different conditions.
Important. I'll just give one very little example. We did the Bring Me the Horizon tour assessment, and we were trying to make it a greener tour. We did reduce emissions 35%, but the main thing that we found was when they decided to change the whole design of the tour and everyone got really stressed and were working double time, that's when all of the things to change went out of the window because people were overworked and tired and stressed out. So it does have a very direct impact.
Okay, are we out of time now? How are we doing?
Maybe just one question. And after
Okay.
we can take a break of 2 minutes to prepare the last discussion at 30 past 4.
Okay, do we have any questions? Comments, insights, stories? Taurus?
Visions?
Yeah, his vision for the future.
Or maybe you can share yours, Maxime?
Well, I think, I mean, I guess, but one thing we should see or observe, and I hope in the future, should be, according to me, the reduction of the size of certain festivals and like this sort of mass consumption system we're in now, which is as bad for me in culture as it is in any other industry, be it food, whatever, or like whatever we have. So, and I think like I understand the argument always, but is the prices of headliners are growing up all the time, and we need bigger structures to finance these huge events, and then everything is raising all the time, and we need to gather more people to make break even, basically. But I think this type of events will still happen because I think there will still be superstars in the years to come, and I don't wish for this to disappear at all. But I think more and more festivals should focus also on proposing alternative frames and making alternative propositions, situating more the quality in the experience that is given, trying not to play on we only have headliners and like the one you've been listening to on the radio the whole year, but we will give you 2 days out of your life, out of time, and it doesn't have to be massive about everything. It's also about social contact and just a frame that we're giving for you. And on that, I think also like we have to propose positive alternatives and not just say like do the same thing but smaller. So I mean that's not really working economically, and that's not really sexy also in itself. So we need to find a way to propose true alternatives, but are changing also, switching the paradigm.
Yeah.
In some way.
Reach a healthy balance, like something that we struggle in Chile with our customers. When they get bigger, their touristic impact and economic impact is bigger, and they are so happy. But then we show the carbon footprint chapter of the report, and it's like, no, they are mad because it's not bigger than the previous year. But that's
Laws
the
of
way it is.
physics.
Okay, thank you very much for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank you.
A big applause for
Thank you.
Claire and
Thanks.
Maxime.